we had obviously at the beginning of this week, we ended up hearing what Carter Page had said behind closed doors in the House Intel meetings. There's stories about Mike Pompeo taking conspiracy theory meetings, and members of his own agency are concerned about whether or not he is actually protecting Donald Trump. But let's start, because we've been talking about Tuesday night in the elections. Blessedly, for as far as Fox News was concerned, they had a reason to pretend that the elections did not happen Tuesday night. Sean Hannity was going deep for the first time I think I've ever seen him in foreign policy, covering the speech that Donald Trump gave in front of what is functionally the South Korean parliament. And it was, basically the way I've been talking about it is he was there promoting both his golf resorts and nuclear holocaust, because he gave one of the most bizarre the speech. If anybody didn't see the speech, I can break it down for you in a second. You take 1/3 of Donald Trump is reading the Wikipedia entry for South Korea, telling these folks basically a second grader's account of South Korean history. Then 1/3 apart promoting the fact that he owns golf clubs and flattering the South Koreans on their golf skills. And then the other part was to talk about how wretched life is in North Korea. And if they try and act tough with us, we're going to do something horrible to everyone. I mean, was that basically like a legit assessment?
That covers it. I mean, but it's typical. This entire trip to Asia was an absolute. I mean, he's always embarrassing when he goes. Well, anytime, but especially when he goes overseas and he's representing the country. This one was really one for the books. He started off, to me, you said he's talking about his golf, he's promoting his properties. I think he's actually he's doing personal appearances and visiting his properties. In Hawaii, he stopped off at his hotel, to talk to the employees. I mean, this just isn't done, right? I mean, this would be considered a corrupt act in the hands of anyone else, and it's just completely fine for him to do it. Yeah, he mentions his golf courses, talks about, he's got, wait till the stuff in the Philippines. He's got a big project there too. He's over there basically, making a fool of himself. I mean, in Japan, it was unbelievable. He stood before a group of American and Japanese soldiers and reminded everybody, hey, don't try and come after us, you're going to regret it. Some people here probably remember that. He's saying that kind of stuff in Japan. I mean, they kind of remember that there's been one nuclear bombs dropped one time, and it was by us on them. So, not
twice,
exactly,
actually, but yes.
Yeah, twice. I mean, not exactly a very cool thing to say in Japan. And then he gave a speech. It was really weird, where he sounded like he must have been jet lagged or had too many Diet Cokes or something was wrong with him. He was going on talking about how he first met the prime minister on the phone, and it was rough because he was inexperienced and didn't understand that you couldn't really talk to foreign leaders. And he said, who knew there were so many countries? I mean, the President of the United States said, who knew there were so many countries? And in fact, the camera panned to members of the audience among the Japanese, who are very stoical kind of people. They don't betray their emotions, but even they, kind of eyebrows raised, going, oh, geez, this guy is really mentally, limited, as it were. And then, of course, he went and gave the speech in South Korea, and it's like, what are we going to do about this? I mean, Indivisible can't fix that particular problem.
No.
How do we shut him up?
No, and it's not, and we should add too that there was reports that he was going to China to demand that the Chinese stop doing any commercial business with North Korea. And then you can just see, he's being taken to the Forbidden City, and it is. Honestly, it is just like you can see how easily they are manipulating him.
No,
like
kidding.
You can just see, like, oh, am I really the first person ever to go to the Forbidden City? Like, it's forbidden, right? But it's okay for me. Like, and here's the thing: is, like, for us, like, we can laugh about it and say, oh, this is, but people have to, for a moment, contemplate what they know about these countries. And most of the people that you and I, we know, very rudimentary things about their culture and whatnot, and about the body politics. I couldn't talk about Japanese politics for more than 22 seconds, I think, and know what I was talking about. I'm not even sure I can go that far. These people are sitting in the audience. They are listening to Donald Trump. And for us, it's embarrassing. But for them, it is the biggest indication that there's something fundamentally wrong with this country. Yep. That they're not just looking and saying, they can't just slough off the fact, oh, it's a lunatic, he just happened to win by 70,000 votes. That's virtually nothing. They're looking at this and they are seeing this as, and maybe correctly so, frankly, that this is indicative of a country that is in deep crisis and is not a reliable partner in any way, shape, or measure. And it's hard to argue with that assessment.
I agree with them. I agree with them. I don't know how. I have zero faith in the government's ability to deal intelligently and practically with world events. I just don't believe that it's capable of doing it. Donald Trump went on Laura Ingram's show last week or the week before he left for his Asia trip, and she said to him, look, you haven't filled all these appointments in the State Department. And he says, well, I'm a businessman. I'm telling them not to fill spaces that they don't need. And anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm the only one who matters. I'm the only one who makes policy. That's all anyone needs to know. And that is, I'm sure that's what the rest of the world is looking at. They hear that. It was all over the internet. They know what he said.
Well, they also know.
And I heard it too. So did you. We're going, oh my God, no expertise, no understanding of the world. You and I may not know anything about Japanese politics. I readily admit that I know very little, but there are experts in the State Department who do, and he's telling them to shut up, or they're firing them, or basically just letting the offices sit empty.
Yeah. And we should say that he said, I'm a businessman. I tell him, get rid of staff you don't need. We're talking about the deputy assistant to the Secretary of State.
Right.
Who's not filled. And so, all right, we got to take a break, but I want to talk more about this. But we also have to talk about the other news this week, which was the sort of, the Carter Page scenario and the implications for the rest of the administration. This is... talk about getting strange. All right, we got to take a break. I'm talking to the great Digby Parton. I'm Sam Seder. This is Ring of Fire Radio.